Hello and welcome to the third episode of A Glass of Wine with Market Minds. And I'm very privileged to be here with Sam Evans, who's the founder and general partner of Eos Venture Partners, a venture capital fund set up to invest in early stage insurance tech. Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Sebastian.
I just wanted to ask you a few general questions perhaps about Eos Venture Partners, especially why you decided to set it up and perhaps when you actually saw the opportunity in insurance tech.
Yeah, sure. So my background is actually working as a partner at KPMG, where I spent 20 years working in insurance. And I guess the key prompt for the move and setting up Eos was spending the last 2 years in particular focusing on the innovation agenda, transformation, how that will impact the insurers' business, how they're going to basically look to transform their business model, and that combined with a number of sort of personal reasons drove the move to set up a dedicated insurtech vehicle. At the time, and actually even now, there are very few global independent but specialist insurtech investors. So we strongly believe that there's both a fantastic underlying opportunity given the dynamics within the marketplace, and also as a specialist independent investor, we're uniquely placed to capitalise on that opportunity.
And who is your team currently made up of?
So there are two general partners, myself and a gentleman called Jonathan Kalman, who's based in Philadelphia in the US. So as I mentioned, my background is very much has been working with very large insurers on their growth agenda across many markets, both mature and high growth.
Yeah.
So I'm very close to the insurance sector. Jonathan's background is a little bit different, but very complementary to mine. So he is an experienced venture capital investor with nearly 20 years of experience investing in fintech, and in the last sort of 5 years insurance, and more recently insurtech. So he has a fantastic track record of taking early stage businesses through to exit. The two of us have quite a strong complementary focus, which is great. That helps us obviously drive the business forward. We have a team of 4, 2 in the UK, 2 in the US, that support both market screening, investment activity, due diligence, valuation work, and helping to develop the portfolio companies.
And your thank you for explaining that, Sam. And your experience with insurance obviously is very very long and in depth. You spend a lot of time with the sector. Would you say that was a key ingredient to running a VC in the insurtech sector?
Yeah, I think so, and that's, I guess, a key part of our value proposition, both to investors and also our portfolio companies. From an investor perspective, because we're so close to the sector, we understand the needs, the dynamics, how the markets are changing, what the insurers are looking to achieve, and the challenges that they face. So I think that gives us certainly a head start over many more generalist investors as to the opportunity in the marketplace. We've done quite an extensive study of the value chain, looking at where we expect innovation to occur, where there are currently players already looking at that space, and where there are not. And that's actually identified a number of white spaces where we're keen to push our investment strategy in 2017 and beyond. And then on the flip side of the coin, what's working really well is with the portfolio companies who are looking for specialist investors who can add significant value to their businesses. And because of the connections that we have, we're able to introduce people, start pilots, and help them develop their business, as well as providing obviously a lot of strategic and operational support in terms of developing the infrastructure and the business model to execute on the underlying opportunity.
And where would you say the most innovation is taking place in this value chain that you've taken out?
Yeah, so that's what's been really interesting, because I think if you look back over in the insurtech sector over the last sort of 2 years, I think the early stages were very much focused on personal lines, distribution, direct to consumer opportunities, which I guess are just inherently easier for people to get their heads around and look to innovate. But what's happening now is you're seeing companies look at all parts of the value chain. nothing is deemed too complicated or off limits. We're seeing some interesting plays in commercial lines across all parts of the value chain. We're working very closely with a business that's looking at claims and how to take that from a very traditional analog process to a more digital one built around the customer. Both I guess different product verticals, different parts of the value chain, and all geographies globally now. We're seeing some really interesting things. So, nothing's off limits, which makes it so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Sam. And what companies to date have you actually invested in?
So we've made six investments so far, 4 of which are complete, 2 are currently in process, and we'll look to close in the next few weeks. Again, it's a mix of businesses, with a heavy focus on the UK at the moment, but also one actually with a Middle East, North Africa focus. So the 6 we've made, the first one was a business called Write-in-Dem, which is the claims transformation business that I mentioned earlier.
Yes. Yep.
The second is a business called Neos, Neos, which is a smart home insurance proposition, which we helped raise just over 1 million to launch their beta in the sort of last quarter of 2016. The third investment was in a business called Digital Fine Print, which is a really fascinating business that looks to use social media to drive and enhance the insurance process. And we helped them with a pre-Series A round that closed also Q4 16. And then the other businesses which are closing or about to close is with Asset Vault, which is a business that helps catalogue and insure both liquid and illiquid assets, so real and financial, including a fully digital e-will product, which is which has a great potential and being distributed globally through a number of very well-known brands. Also, a business called Democrats, which is the business in the Middle East, North Africa focus, which is looking to help the sale of microinsurance products to low-income families in that region through mobile phone platforms. That they're currently live in a number of countries in the Middle East and getting fantastic traction. And the final investment is in a business called Insure a Thing, who are currently a participant at the SBC InsurTech program, who have a very different approach to how insurance should work. So it's very interesting to be involved in an early stage business that also is taking a truly disruptive, innovative approach to how insurance should work going forward.
Yeah, very interesting. That's quite a spread. And what would you say your focus is going forward?
So we have 2 immediate priorities. The first is 2 of those initial investments, so Write-in-Dem and Neos, have seen fantastic traction and are progressing through to Series A funding round. So we are supporting both of those. So we're raising what we call a single purpose fund to invest exclusively in each of those 2 businesses,
right,
to facilitate the current funding need. It's been brilliant that we've seen such strong traction so early in their lifetime. For different reasons, Neos have agreed an exclusive distribution agreement with Zoopla, which we actually helped introduce, and that obviously allows them to scale their business a lot more quickly. They're also in discussions with a strategic investor, who will also invest as well as building a strategic partnership with them. So all very positive. And Write-in-Dem are seeing just fantastic traction globally from the insurance community, so they need to scale their infrastructure to capitalise on the demand that they're seeing in the US, the UK, Europe, Asia. It's great to be able to support businesses as they start hitting their milestones and achieving their objectives. The third SPV that's also currently live is for a business called Gen.Life, which is based in Hong Kong and the US, which again is a very, very interesting opportunity. They're looking to transform the entire life and health underwriting insurance process by building a full stack technology solution based on blockchain and artificial intelligence in conjunction with 20 global insurance partners. So it's very ambitious, but also very interesting. And Eos has the final tranche of their Series A round. So that's all very exciting. And then if that wasn't enough, we're also launching our main InsurTech fund. So fundraising for that over the next 2 quarters with a view of getting that up and running later in the year.
So no holidays for you. So.
Certainly not in the short term.
That you mentioned blockchain and AI. See, they're big words at the moment. Everyone's talking about it. Everybody's interested in it. What do you think is the true short-term potential for blockchain and AI in commercial insurance?
So I think it's a really interesting question. I think that the approach that Gen Life are taking, for example, is an interesting one. So they've sort of scoured the globe to build tech teams with deep experience in those 2 areas. Yeah. And I think the challenge for insurers is it's difficult for them to access that kind of talent directly, because insurance isn't the first place, unfortunately, people think about directing their career. But doing it in this way, I think, provides a very positive stepping stone. So I mean, use cases for blockchain and insurance are still, practical use cases are still quite limited. There's a lot of theoretical and applications that you can see would make sense. But there's truly an opportunity to fractionalize the cost of delivering insurance through leveraging the technology, both from a customer acquisition perspective and then also managing the entire life cycle of the policyholder. And that's certainly the focus that the Gen Life are taking. Similarly, artificial intelligence, machine learning, I'd say it's probably seeing more traction at this stage, but again, we're probably just scratching the surface around the true underlying potential. And when you start to think about linking it with some of the developments in medtech and the devices that will be available for individuals, so you can have both preventative as well as significant information about people's illnesses and what that means for their life cycle and lifespan and therefore for their insurance. So I think we'll see just truly transformational steps being taken over the next 3 years. And Gen Life, and the way that they structured their setup, having access to 20 global insurance partners and therefore huge amounts of data, as well as the technical capability to process and develop that, I'm sure we'll be leading the forefront.
And harnessing data seems to be the big asset here, isn't it? Everyone's talking about if you can harness all the data, especially in the insurance industry, we'll be able to develop all kinds of services for clients. Yeah,
I think that's exactly right. And somewhat bizarrely, given the amount of information that insurers have because of the legacy and some of the infrastructure issues, it's not always as easy for them as you might think to actually access and use that information. And that's where the startups have an advantage.
Yeah, understand. And what would you say is, as far as European tech goes, would you say that it could potentially be a more exciting market than the US? Because as far as I can see and read, there's a lot of regulatory issues in the US for growth that inhibits them state by state, whereas in Europe there seems to be less of that, which enables them to perhaps grow larger and quicker.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting dynamic actually. The 50 states regulation isn't particularly helpful from a US perspective. I mean, this is a big generalisation, but my high-level thoughts to that are the European startup sector is potentially more advanced than the US, so it's seeing just maybe potentially more innovation. Very interesting, but I think the financing environment is the reverse. So I think the US funding, access to capital, the ability for people to invest, or willingness for people to invest in early stage businesses is more developed, just given the history of the US economy and Silicon Valley and the fintech boom and related aspects. So yeah, I think which is nice for us to have a foot in both camps.
Yeah. And do you see some opportunity, because obviously your partner is based in Philadelphia? Does he attract the US money, and do you find the European tech? Is that sort of partnership that?
Yeah, it works both ways. So
Yeah.
I mean, clearly there are some fantastic businesses in the US. So we're working with a couple, actually helping. One of the things we've been helping people do recently is take an opportunity in the US and actually help them build that in the European space.
Right. Yeah.
So we can help with connections and the regulatory issues and setup and all those related topics, helping find pilots, etc.
Yeah.
It's not always easy for people to make the jump from one side of the pond to the other.
Absolutely.
And similarly vice versa, obviously. So it's been great working with Right in Dem, for example. We've been able to help them develop the US market and introduce them to a number of very significant motor players in the US. So yeah, that dynamic plays well.
Very interesting. And what would you say, personally, do you think is the most exciting US insurtech business currently?
So there's some very large businesses. So Oscar, which has obviously raised a huge amount of money, closely linked with the health space. But I mean, yeah, from our perspective, I mean, we're closely involved with 3 or 4 businesses which we believe doing something pretty unique. I mean, I'll just mention one as an example. So there's a business called Tyche, which is essentially a business that enables insurers to leverage or gather and leverage unstructured data, which they otherwise wouldn't be able to access.
Wow,
so, for example, 100,000 claims files sitting in PDF form are essentially useless, but Tyche have the capability to analyse that, extract all the relevant information, and then build a level of insights and analytics from that information, combining both unstructured data internally and externally to the company, and then apply for underwriters and claims handlers real-time insights at the point of underwriting, point of claim settlement.
Wow.
So very interesting, and it has some interesting applications in the London market. Yeah,
I mean, who wouldn't want that? That sounds great. And as far as the London market is concerned, what are your predictions for it? Do you think this is a time for disruption, or a time for opportunity, or what do you see all this insurtech? What role do you see it playing for the London market?
So I think as with most parts of the insurance ecosystem, there's this huge opportunity for innovation and to make the structure a lot more efficient. We're working with a business called Galactics, which is developing a solution for external data, which has some amazing applications for a market like London. At the moment it's very fragmented. Data sources are very fragmented, not consistent in format, not presented in a way that can be easily understood. So a platform that pulls all that together, I think could really revolutionise things on that aspect. As I said, obviously people like Tyche are looking at how they can support underwriting and claims. So it's really happening right across the value chain, from front end to back end. Clearly the corporation has a huge focus on modernising and transformation, which is fantastic to see, and hopefully we can support that activity and that ambition.
They're just banning alcohol at the moment, Sam, but we're expecting some innovation. And what do you think about the Lloyd's market, the face-to-face, the real legacy of the London market? Do you think that's under threat, or do you think it might just perhaps reinvent itself?
Yeah, I think it's about readjusting, reinventing. Clearly, personal relationships are a key part of doing business. We've seen a number of businesses looking to create more sort of electronic trading platforms, which could potentially facilitate parts of, or indeed the whole process from an underwriting perspective. But you've got 300 years of history, and I don't think anyone wants to throw that away, because clearly it works well. But on the same, the flip side of the coin is there is clearly opportunity to make the market a lot more efficient and allow people to focus on more value add parts of their job rather than a lot of the administration. So yeah, I think it'll be it'll be a market that will have to change. And it'll be very interesting to see how that develops.
Speaking of change in markets, we've spoken about the US and Europe. Now we've seen some really interesting stuff happening in China and Singapore. In particular, Zhong'an, the large P&C online retailer, which now has 400 million customers and has sold several billion policies, and apparently doesn't have any underwriters. What do you make of that sort of advancement?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of work in China over my career, so it's an amazing country and a fascinating market. I mean, Zhong'an is pretty unique. If you look at its shareholders, I think it's hard really to describe it as a true startup. With Alibaba, Ping An, and Tencent behind it.
Yes.
So it had distribution, underwriting, resources, investment, marketing, etc. From day one. So I mean, clearly they've done an amazing job to take it where they have. Not all startups obviously have that advantage, but yeah, I mean I spent a long time living in Asia, so I'm very well connected into what's happening there.
Okay.
So yeah, we're closely monitoring activity. We're actually looking at a business recently in India, which is doing some interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a danger of having a bit of a Western bias. But actually, there's some, as you said, there's some really, really interesting businesses being developed. And actually, the business that we looked at in India is actually steps ahead of their European peers. Aside from anything else, they have a team of 50 developers that they can have working full time, just given the relative cost dynamics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're very much open to I guess the opportunities developing from high growth markets and how we can use those obviously for investment, but also potentially bringing them into the European and the US market to help innovation here.
So you're looking at the whole world. Nothing is going past you.
I mean, it's a big, obviously it's a huge market, and I guess we don't want to we won't rule anything out based on geography. But clearly, we can't be strategic in all places. There's just too much happening. So I think the best way to say is we're strategic in Europe and the US, opportunistic in other parts of the world.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, Sam, thanks very much. We're almost out of time, but can I just ask you a couple of more personal questions? Perhaps what your best investment book is that you've read. Any advice for some good reading to learn about the investment process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've read a few books, obviously, in that space. I quite like the black swan thinking and thinking outside of the box, and because really that's what we're looking at here is how the unknown unknowns are going to shape the insurance industry, and trying to get a handle around that and get ahead of the innovation curve as best as we can.
Yeah, understand. And perhaps some general advice to any aspiring entrepreneurs, or both in InsurTech and perhaps in the VC world. Is there anything any great advice you were given, maybe?
Well, I hope we could certainly add value. It's hard really to capture that in a nutshell, but for me, the key thing is all about the team. The team dynamic and how the team can execute on the underlying opportunity. Clearly, you need to have a good business model and a business idea, but particularly at the early stage, a lot of it comes down more to execution and making sure you've got the right kind of resources in place. I guess I'd also add think a lot about your customer acquisition strategy, and whether a B2B versus B2B2C, for example, model is potentially more efficient than B2C, just given the competitive nature of the marketplace and difficulty building new brands. We're seeing quite a lot of people run into challenges in that regard. And the third comment is, particularly this is more directed to InsurTech, is you have to be persistent, because insurers are changing, and it's fantastic to see the shift in momentum, but still the process of engaging, onboarding, moving from agreement even to live proof of concepts can still be very, very, very time consuming. So you just got to keep hammering at that door. And as I said, things are moving in the right direction, but I think there's still a huge amount more that can be done.
A slow burn, perhaps.
Yes, certainly in many cases. But yeah, I mean, our record now is from first introduction to pilot. It's taken 6 weeks. So there are, and that's with a business closely connected with the London market.
That's definitely not a slow burn, is it?
Yeah. So people are changing, but that's unfortunately not the norm.
It's not the norm.
Yeah.
Nice to have that, though.
Yep.
Makes a change. Well, Sam, thank you very much. Now, is there any particular way people can get in touch with you, perhaps InsurTech or anyone looking for an exciting job?
Yeah, so probably the best place is through the website.
Yeah.
www.eosventurepartners.com, and that has contact details and ability to connect through to the team through the website. So it's probably the easiest place.
Great, Sam. Thank you very much for coming on, and much appreciated. And wishing you the best of luck in 2017.
Yeah, thank you very much.
A big thank you to Sam Evans from Eos Venture Partners for taking the time to do a podcast with us. Really fascinating insight into the investment world for InsurTech and the challenges and opportunities therein. If anyone was wondering what the last song was in the background, that was Nina Simone's version of Here Comes the Sun. Fantastic tune and very timely. Next week we've got the Baobab Network. 2 young entrepreneurs will be telling us about their journey so far and how they're connecting the developed world corporations with tech startups in sub-Saharan Africa. Please come along to our next Future Leaders debate at the WeWork office space in Moorgate on April the 5th. Make insurance great again. The event will be showcasing the different ways in which the incumbent insurers and brokers are approaching innovation. We've got a killer lineup of the likes of MS Amlin, XL Catlin Accelerate, Hiscox Futures and Beazley. It's going to be one of those evenings you really don't want to miss. We've also maybe managed to swing getting a robot on the panel. Please also look out for our flagship summer conference coming up on June the 20th. If you would be interested to speak or sponsor, please email me at sebastian@insurtechcon.com or find me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening to A Glass of Wine with Market Minds. See you next week.